Okay. So yeah, good morning, everyone. So I think the agenda for today's session should be very interactive because we have a very close group of people here today, and the idea is that we actually learn from each other's experience in the process also. Just give me a second. Yeah. So I hope this. Just confirm me. Maybe you can put a thumbs up if my screen is visible and there's no like my picture and other things are not there, right? I mean, only the screen is visible.
Yes, your screen and your
Uh,
video.
as in, I don't want my picture to be there. It's only the screen visible, right?
Your picture
Yes.
is also there.
Perfect. Sure. Okay. Great. So now, we have been talking about this for a while now that startups, how they can be built, they can be grown, and what is really the problem, the core problem which leads to failure of startups. This is something which personally I have been extremely involved in as well. So I'll quickly give a brief about my background first. So I have been been an entrepreneur literally all my life. Built my first company when I was in my first year itself in college. So and since then just building tech companies primarily. So I started building interesting tech companies, some very exciting ones. I've got some really good exits also from these tech companies, and one of the first few exits in the whole startup boom era which India was going through at one time. And then I've also started a venture capital fund sometime a few years ago. It's a domestic venture capital fund, and then also a growth capital fund, all focused on different levels of startups and different levels of companies. So in a way, I have been on two sides of the coin. Of course, being a customer to various startups also, so you could call it all sides of the coin per se, where I have seen and built startups from 0 to 1, tried to grow some of them from 1 to 10, and then further also, while also investing in startups which are at the level of which have reached some level, and then putting in money so that they can grow forward. And in all of this experience, I was able to see a number of things, number of problems which startups face, why companies start failing. Uh, yeah, why companies start failing. Okay. So, and it was. I actually talked to all the startups which we had invested in a few years ago.
Hello.
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 Yeah. Sorry for that. Yeah. So that was the whole idea. I mean, we have been, I always tried to find out what is it that makes a startup fail, makes a business fail. And then I could see in the current context also this knowledge of why startups fail or why startups succeed. Because, if you know where you are failing, then of course, at least some aspects of success can be built. Uh, that became even more prominent, not just from the context or perspective of startups, but also from the perspective of various entities, even corporates who are building very like entrepreneurial teams right now. So it's a new trend happening. Various companies have been building small businesses within their businesses, and what needs to be kept into mind while building these businesses, the awareness of what is it that makes some startups not work, majority of them not work, while some startups work. So the attempt at this conversation today is to be able to figure out to some extent what are the elements which are working, which are not working, and also would love to have thoughts from the people over here in the call, so that we can try and come to some form of conclusion which is useful for all of us over here. So that's the thought. So of course, I also co-founded Great Manager Institute, uh, and which is focused on people management. It works with thousands of companies today, focusing on how people management can help uh, companies and individuals achieve their goals. So that's there as well. Now, Okay, so there are hundreds of such slides which if you Google. So what I've tried to do today is that not to talk about things which you can easily Google, because then that's the whole purpose. It kind of defeats the purpose if we are having this conversation. But if you Google why does a growing startup fail, or why does a startup fail in general, you'll find hundreds of results, different types of results. In some cases, you see, some totally different kind of reason being at the top, while in other cases you see some other reason being at the top. So what you see right now in front of you is an output which has come from a detailed survey of a large number of startups, more than about 100 startups or so, and so gives a good context of how a growing startup would, the reasons why the growing startups fail. Now, if you see in front of you on the screen right now, so it talks about the typical problems. On the lower side, there are the tech problems, the operations problems, the legal problems. These are common things, of course. Then we see finance problems. It is not at the top level, but it is there. Finance problems is not the same as running out of cash or something like that, because finance problems can also be how you have not managed finance properly, and how predictions were not there as to when the money will end, or etc., whatever can be the reason, but finance problems exist. And then comes the other half of things, the higher half: marketing problems, product market fit, team problems. Now, if you look at these three alone, that product market fit, now product market fit is a very common problem. It's like you built something which was not accepted by the market. Now, it's like a very common problem. But sometimes it's important to go a level deeper and actually figure out where does this problem stem from. It's sometimes, or is it actually a cause, or is it an effect of some other problem which is brewing in the back end. So that is very important. So I will talk about that a little bit more as to why product market fit exists. Why is that a problem? Team problem is something which actually has come across very strongly in many of these surveys with the startups, and of course marketing is is connected to the product market fit point itself. So now, having said this, having set the context here, uh, one more thing I would like to say. While we were, like, this is now coming not just from a startup entrepreneur, but also someone who has been a VC. So it's coming from that point of view. That when we do these surveys, trying to find out why startups fail, why startups succeed, generally we make the mistake of only asking the startups and not really asking the experts as to why they are failing. Now, a startup entrepreneur would typically give their thoughts around why they think they have failed. It's like asking the patient, why, what kind of disease do you have? Which is not always the right thing to do. Diagnostics has to be done by someone from the outside, still a stakeholder in your existence, but still, not so much that they would be biased towards one particular output. And that's where we think that, or at least I thought that the 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 reason of why startups fail should not be derived just out of conversations with the startups themselves, but also with other stakeholders associated with the startup, so that they can give a good idea as to where these problems are stemming from. So that's very important, and that's where you will find points like lack of market fit, or points like, for example, even as I mentioned, even if you Google today, why do startups fail?
Hello, hi Dheeraj from Delhi.
Yashashvi, can you mute everyone so that
Sure.
and then we will unmute when when the discussion moves forward. And I'm so sorry for there's some noise. Suddenly, I did not realize my neighbor has started doing some interior work, and he did not inform me. But it's okay. Let's continue. Okay, so startups. I was saying that. So basically, what we need to do is we need to talk to the startups, and when we talk to the startups, we need to even talk to the VCs who are invested in these startups, and that's where we get the real idea of of various stakeholders thinking where the startups are failing. Now having said all of this, let's get into a few case studies, because that's, I think, the purpose of this conversation to a great extent. What I will do is that I will share a few stories, and these are all real stories which I have experienced myself across different domains in the experience of funding in companies, and or being advisor to different startups and all. So it comes from there. All of them are real stories. I will try not to name, of course I will not name the companies, because these are failure stories that have not taken their permissions per se. And this is my evaluation, detailed evaluation of these companies and why they failed. And we'll read about these success stories so many times, so much in these various documents that we read regularly, that we fail to figure out that the actual solution of what succeeds does not lie in the examples of what has succeeded, but lies in the examples of what has failed. So that's very important. So that's why we'll talk about a few failure stories. I'm, of course, in some cases, some of 2 or 3 stories I will talk about, and in some of them I have been actively involved as well. So I have been on, in a way, both sides, startup, VC, entrepreneur, all sides. So yeah, so let me start. So this is the story of an HR tech firm. Uh, just give me 1 second, guys, please. I'm so sorry for this. Sorry for the disturbance. Yeah. So now, okay, let's talk about this interesting HR tech startup. Now, this was a startup from some time back. The timeline exactly. It was in the space of now we can call it HR tech consultancy, but there are multiple definitions. Domain is anyways a very complicated thing. Which domain you put a company in, it's like keeps on changing. So don't go by the domain. But anyways, so this company built a very beautiful product around consultancy, and used technologies. The guys who were behind this were also very high end techies, and a proof of concept was created. They started growing, and then they raised a good amount of funding. Majority of the people who were there in the team were very young people with strong domain knowledge, technical background. I mean, not domain more. Domain was still something which they were building, but primarily, technical background they had. And then basically, once they got funding, they started to expand. Now, once they started expanding, they thought, okay, more domain knowledge, more expertise. So probably let us start, hiring certain people from, like, of course, in leadership team. Now, every startup, when they get funding, they always think that now the next step is probably to start, getting more outsiders, other people, senior people who have been in the domain, let's say an HR leader, or in this case, or maybe other domain leaders come in and join the company. And that's what started happening. And they kind of started expanding in that sense. There were more experts coming in. Now, what I could see here was what was happening with that startup is that their core product, which they had built, for which they had raised funding, remained, and it was there. What they started thinking that they have already built that product. That was a general mindset. Okay, we have built a product. Now our job is to sell that product. Now that is not how it works. There are multiple cycles that it is one goes through, and there's no product that ever gets built, because it's always in the process of getting built, because there is so much change which happens around us all the time that you cannot say, okay, I'm ready. You're never ready. It's a constant process which never stops. Maybe they thought, okay, maybe this core product is there, and then they started getting lots of ideas from people, different people who joined in from different backgrounds, and they started building another product also simultaneously, where they focus more on that particular product. kept on growing on that product also. That product also started getting traction, initial traction, but it was a little slow. It was not something which could have been, which could grow exponentially. It was something which was growing slowly. Now what happened is that the investors who had invested in had this very clear thought that we want the company to grow at a large pace, because that's why the valuation has been so high. Valuation is a function of the potential of the future rather than what is it there right now. And the potential lies in the ability to grow fast. But what was happening is that the core product, which was supposed to grow fast, there was no innovation happening on that anymore. While the other product which came in because of the domain knowledge experts who came into the picture was actually making some money, but was not growing fast enough. And then, as expected, new competitors came in. They were able to take up the market which they had already captured. So the market share went away from them. And what happened here effectively, that since they were in the high growth business, the typical startup route where they need to keep on growing fast, they needed to raise funds to be able to ensure that while when the new investors came in, they realized that the core product is not up to the mark, because in the last 7-8 months technology had improved to a different level altogether, and it remained there only. And so basically they realized that okay, it's not up to the mark. They were not getting funding for the core product, and when they started to raise funds, keeping in mind the side product that they had built, it was not having any strong growth potential. So the same valuation was not possible. Investors were not happy with that. Effectively, whatever happened, had to shut down. And I mean, not really shut down, but go in a stage where it's not viable anymore. So I mean, this is the brief story. Now when we look at this story, we look at multiple elements where failure has happened in this story, and we can all have all our thoughts on where does the failure come from, why it has happened. uh, Maybe maybe we can think over it for a minute or so, and just 1 second. So we can think over the cause, and maybe if someone wants to type it out, because anyways we'll have a more interactive session a little later after I share a few of the stories. But if you can type it out, if not, otherwise anyways I'll move to what I think would be the causes. Now of course, it does not mean that what I think is perfect here, but there can be multiple causes. So when I tell this story to people in general, I find some of the reasons which come out. Mostly when I tell it to startups, they say the company ran out of cash, which is true. But again, probably that's not really the main reason. So let's look at different reasons in that case then. So as I mentioned, did the company run out of cash? Probably that is not the reason, because one has to because that's an effect. That's an effect of what happened. Things which happened around the company which led to the company going out of cash. So that cannot be the reason. So what they failed in doing was that they were not able to probably have enough innovation in the product, regular innovation. So if you are in the tech domain, one has to be aware that the market changes so fast that there has to be regular innovation. And probably when they were sitting with the team, the new team which also got formed, and they were not able to see this young found, and I'll be a little blunt here, this young team of founders were very, they had a very like a very strong vision about what they can do. They'll be constantly innovative, but that innovation became blunt when the team started expanding. Innovation became that mindset became blunt, because there were people coming in and they told, okay, maybe we should not regularly innovate. Maybe we should do something else, which kind of gives us right revenue at the right time, which is a very valid point. But the point is that somewhere in that process, that innovation mindset as a whole within the organization, which I was able to see, started going down. So even when the techies used to come and start doing some coding, they thought, okay, let us sustain the product. Let us do something. Okay, it's okay, it's done. Something. So that there's an entire mindset which starts coming in, and that mindset became, that innovation mindset started going away. Of course, with the innovation mindset starting to go away, somewhere the whole product market fit, which we call, started to disappear as well, because market product market fit does not happen by knowing what the market is going through right now. It happens by knowing just after this what the market will go through. I mean, it used to be always, because product takes time to build. So if you're thinking, okay, this is what is happening right now, let me build something according to that, then you are late. It has to be always a little before the product, the market actually what it will be. So it's all about being able to predict rightly. So anyway, so that product market, since innovation was lacking, this whole product market fit was not really coming across well. Is that what I think? And then why this innovation mindset uh, became a problem. Why did this happen, that these same entrepreneurs who VCs had bet on to develop an innovative product went into this zone of where they were not innovative enough? Why did this happen? Was the founder at mistake? Were the new hires, very senior hires, at mistake? Were the team at mistake, who were who overall could not think what they should be doing in the right direction? If you see, and if I go back and see very clearly and put down the points and then figure out various situations, stages, as to where they went wrong, I see one thing very clearly. This team never was able to bring all of the team members in the same zone in terms of the vision of what they want to achieve. Now, new people come in, they come in with their own experience, their own thoughts, experience of 30, 40 years. They have built something, they have created something, and they think that they know what the future will be. And that thought comes in, you try to, and it also becomes a matter of sometimes, okay, whose ego or whose thoughts actually get accepted. So I'm being a bit blunt here, but anyways, that becomes the question. So now it's not about the company. It's like, okay, let me make my vision go through. Other team says, okay, let me make my vision go through. Whatever it is, the point is that they come together somehow, somewhere, which I could see could have been a solution for this company at the start itself, where they would have tried to at least do simple things, like the founder who is in charge of tech, or the founder who was in charge of BD marketing, or the new CXOs. They would have firstly aligned themselves rightly. That's a very important thing. So this peer level of connect between each other, understanding what really they think the vision of the company should be, understanding whether they regularly understand things or not. But even more importantly, they should have made the team which they are working with align with the vision. Because as I said, I saw that the techies who were there, who were supposed to build the product, somehow, somewhere, even if they were given a task which was innovative in nature, they did not approach it with the mindset of innovation, and that's where they started failing. This mindset was coming in from this lack of alignment of what really they want to achieve between different stakeholders of the company. And they could see that. See, it's not like a very conscious thing. It's like they are feeling it, that okay, there is something missing, and that kind of weighs down on you, and you start moving in that direction. So this is what I felt happened with this organization, that they were not connecting with each other at regular intervals. They were not sharing what they are going through at different levels, and somehow, somewhere, it became multiple entities working in silos in a way. And this is something, a common thread we'll find in the future in the next case studies also, which I come to. But anyway, so this was what I think was the reason, and we'll of course like in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, when I close all the case studies, we'll love to have thoughts from everyone about this, if possible. And anyways, the idea is to actually listen to others' case studies, and maybe have solutions from all of us. Okay, this
Yeah, I think it's very meeting of huh?
is someone speaking something? Okay. You can keep on, if I'm speaking something and there is some point to be shared through chat, we can keep on discussing. That way it will be interesting. Okay, now coming to this, again, I mean, I won't call it edtech per se, but okay, it's one of the definitions that let's call it an edtech startup. But otherwise, it was in the space of more on tuitions and extracurricular activities, and also it was not purely edtech, more skill based kind of company. But anyway, deliberately I've taken this example because there's an interesting story here for them also. So this company also same story, young founders, brilliant ones. They're from IITs, and they raised some funds. They started growing, and they were in the business of working with students. Let's say that only. Let's not get into the depth of what really it was. So this company, they were in the business of working with students, and they they decided, okay, now if we are expanding, since we are working with students, let's have various people who are experts in the space of understanding children, psychologists, teachers who join in. That was the whole thing. They even formed a separate division. They hired someone very senior, and again, all types of senior, junior, everyone was hired at different levels. Primarily who were psychologists and teachers, and it was a very good move because that is exactly what they were moving towards. They needed to hire these teachers who could understand the students, and that's how their product would have built better. So let's not get into what really the product was, but this is what would have been doing great. Now, here what started happening, and I could again say this from first-hand experience, is now one of the founders, he was a brilliant one. He had a super creative brain. He thought, and he was involved in marketing and BD. He thought, okay, let's create a YouTube channel and start doing YouTube activities on that. That will help in the business marketing. I'll not get into the business model per se, but okay, that will help in the business and all. And they started doing it. He started doing it. The other founder was a techie. He told, okay, let us build, keep on building new tech innovations, which is all good till now because they're both going in the right direction. One is building the market, the other is building the tech, and it's all going good. In this process of building these two things, and they were doing it great. They started now this founder, the one who was building the YouTube channel and all, started complete focus on that YouTube channel, and the teachers who were supposed to be, let's say the teacher is someone who wants to grow by further getting deeply in touch with the students, to be able to move forward. That's, I mean, their job. I mean, they have to constantly be aware, interact. And somehow, somewhere, when they were doing work which was more like creating a video or something like that, somehow, somewhere, what was happening in this case, of course, that's not the case with every company. In this case, that they were losing focus or touch with what is happening with the students. Now, effectively, when we, when as a mentor advisor, when I started interacting much later, when the company was not through a good phase, and as I mentioned, I went back and tried to find out what really went wrong. I could see in the whole, about 40% of the staff was now full of teachers and psychologists and others, and they were not finding it, valuable. I mean, they were moving in a direction which they think or they thought was not the direction they should be going into. So I hope you're getting right. Basically they thought being teachers, they would be working more with students, create new product, new content, new innovations around it. But somehow, somewhere, that was not happening in this case. And then they, of course, after some time, because it was a company dependent on how the tuition teachers and everyone can create a brand in the market. They started since they were not that actively involved, and they were making some good videos, but what they really wanted to do was not really happening. We started seeing attrition. People started leaving, and then of course, when attrition started happening, then some more people were hired. This time, people who actually could, was okay with doing anything, but they were not of the same caliber. And somehow, somewhere, the brand started losing its sheen. It went on going down, and while it was going down, both the founders decided that okay, they lost control of how it can be salvaged. They all knew what they can do best, and they went on their paths doing what they could do best. So this YouTuber, this friend, this founder became a YouTuber. Now he has more than million followers on YouTube, but that's not part of the company. That's not giving the kind of revenue which was expected. You can get 2 million, 3 million followers on YouTube does not mean that you get revenue out of it. Also, it's a very complicated business. Anyway, so he's doing that. The other one is building some tech products, but somehow somewhere the core of what they were doing stagnated. The team does not include any more teachers now. Effectively, the company is officially in a way in a shutdown stage. Now, this is another story. Now, here too, we can find lots of issues very similar to the last one in a way. If you see, there's a common pattern which is emerging out of this. And if you see at any of the stories of any of the failures, you will see these patterns coming in, irrespective of the business, the model, the domain, and everything. So, again, here, we can think of various causes of why this happened. Here, they did not really run out of money, so that part does not come out. Attrition did happen. They ran out of team. They ran out of good resources. They ran out of talent. So in the first case, you saw they ran out of money. In this case, you saw ran out of talent. But ran out of talent again is not the actual reason. There is something else. Now, of course, these reasons are not that well explained. Let me explain. Basically, what I could feel here, and one can always only do it retrospectively. So if the teachers, the psychologists would have been involved in all the decisions which were made with respect to either making a YouTube channel and marketing it over there, if their interests would have been taken into consideration, if what they could do best, and they could have done great job of understanding consumers, in this case being the students, consumer being the students, they could have done a great job of that, but that was not happening at all. So somehow, somewhere, what happened and where the whole leadership team failed is in understanding who they have hired and what those people who have hired want to do in their lives, so that they can do that good job of doing it rather than doing a bad job, rather than doing a forced job, which they did in this case. And that's why the result was not great enough. And it's all very competitive businesses. The results have to be at a very high level. And also, of course, so they were not really looking at where and how will these teachers grow? What will they become? If their interest were there, this attrition would not have happened. If they would have been involved, if not anything, involved in decisions, then the decisions would have come not just out of the creativity of one founder. In this case, so a founder thinks, I am creative, let me do YouTube channel. It would have come out of a team, an entire company, everyone saying, okay, this is what we can do as a company and grow together. And that is what many entrepreneurs miss at many times, that they even after, so this is good, all good before you have started expanding. It's very good to only look at your core skill sets and then develop the business accordingly. But what happens after that? When it becomes a company, you should not remain a founder. I always say this, a founder should stop being a founder for the company or the startup to grow. It's like a very important thing, according to me, of course, it's my limited thought process, but I always believe that founder should stop. So what made that founder click was his or her ability to be a founder, but that's not the same thing which works. So your creativity, your genius is good. That's what you and the thing that you have founded and all. But then after some time, instead of being a founder, you become a leader. You start, or a people manager, and then you start actually managing relationships with people around you, and they are the ones who will take the company forward, the people around you. And that's what many of these people, they miss. In this case, the end of the story is this: the founder is a famous YouTuber, one of them, the other one is a good techie. Probably they are doing what they want to do, they're enjoying their life. The teachers did not get their ESOPs. There was no, they got their ESOPs, but they did not get any money out of it. The company got shut down. The investors lost their money. There was another founder also. They lost their money. So effectively, the end result was, it was not a win-win for everyone. And that's where, and of course, the students who could have benefited so much out of this growing company actually lost in this process. So yeah, looking at the team, involving them in decisions, understanding what their aspirations are at all the time, understanding what they want to do. If you have hired them, right, it is very important. Now another one, jumping into another one quickly. We have got 5-10 minutes more. So this one is another interesting tech startup. Now here I was even more closely involved. Now this company, was in the typical space of this competitive exams, which is like a big thing nowadays. We keep on hearing about lots of startups and all in this domain. So, started raising funds because in 2015, 14, this was a hot domain. Even now it is to some extent. And they started raising lots of funds, started growing, hired a big team, 200 people team approximately, 110, 120 people were in the sales team. Or rather more than that, around 140, 150 out of the 200 people team was in sales, because that's where the focus was, which is a good thing because they had to grow. That's why they had been invested in. They had to grow, they had to do sales, they kept on doing sales. And then they created a beautiful structure of sales also. Like, for example, what they did is that, let's say the salary of the sales team member is X, then they could have actually earned around 5X depending on how much they are selling. So effectively, let's say, just given as an example, the sales team, the fresher gets X, the tech team, the fresher was getting 2X, but the sales team was earning, some of them were earning 4X, 5X, depending on the kind of sales they were doing. So basically a very, very heavily performance linked incentive where the performance was sell as much as you can. Now, that's a good thing. That's a good thing to some extent because that led to their sales increase as well. This actually says they did not do anything for the sales team, but that's wrong because many of these sales team members actually became, were able to earn a lot. They never expected they would be earning so much being freshers, and they were earning good money in their business. So in a way, it went in the right direction to a great extent. But something started happening. Now, this is a very interesting thing. A new competitor, and I can name the competitor, Byju's. Byju's came in at that time, and by the way, company was not shut down. If you actually figure out, the company in this case got an exit, which means they got acquired. But the reality is, I know the acquisition was a distress sale, so no one made any money in the process. So that's the reality. But anyways, the point is that's the reality of most startups in any case. So the company, this new competitor came in. They had bags full of money. At that time, they did not, but they were getting money. They were starting to get money from different investors, and somehow, somewhere, it was a simple game. A or B will exist, and B started going down, and the B as in the existing company started going down, and the new competitor started doing. This is the story, but there is a deeper, analysis within that, because once you see it, you see, oh, okay, we could not sustain the competitor. The competitor had bags full of money. We did not have. That's why we failed. But probably that was not the reason. What was happening with the sales team? The sales team was getting a lot of money through performance-linked incentives, but there was still very high attrition, which is again understandable in the environment that they were in. Understandable, not agreeable, but understandable. You're making a lot of money and you have to constantly sell. A little bit of pressure is there. Then you decide to move out because it's so much of pressure. And also in some cases, not everyone can sustain the pressure. So in some cases, the team leaders start putting pressure that, okay, you are not delivering enough. So someone who is not delivering enough has to then move out. So this is what happens. If you are making this so heavily performance linked where the performance is only making sales, this is what starts happening. Now, if one looks back at it, again, retrospectively, what if, the sales team's success was not only connected to, the amount of sales they were doing? I mean, I know sales team's job is to make sales, but what if the recognition or the appreciation for their work went a little beyond sales? Maybe some people who were genuinely passionate about helping the students get online learning and online coaching and improving and becoming better citizens. Maybe some sales people who had that thinking could also have been appreciated. Maybe there would have been some other mechanisms to recognize people beyond their KRA achievement. Maybe all this would have led to creation of something which was rooted in purpose. which was rooted in something where you can see, okay, this is the goal of the company. The goal of the company is not just me making money 5x what my salary currently is, the base salary is. This would not have been the goal. And when that became the goal, sustainability becomes a challenge, because you are making great money as long as you are alone. When new players come in and they come in with more money and more salespeople with more drive and probably even bigger pay packages for them, what happens after that? If purpose has not bound you to the company, then you lose it. And that's what happened here. Because, when you again look at it retrospectively, you look at the purpose, you see that none of those hundreds of sales team were actually thinking about the students who they are serving. None of them. Only thing, since it was so heavily performance linked, the entire success, that nothing else was discussed ever. Since their only way of recognition was to make sales, they never felt connected. And somehow somewhere, okay, I actually went ahead with the cause also, by the way. Somehow somewhere, you know uh, the culture did not allow them to do this.
Hello.
Yes, hello. Okay, so somehow somewhere the culture did not allow them to do this. That's where they started failing. And what I always say, this is inspiration. The team, the founders, the team leaders, the senior sales head, the VP sales at that time, all should have worked towards inspiring their team, work towards making them see the purpose of why they are doing what they are doing. And people who are not inspired can never deliver on a sustainable manner. And we see many of these companies even today. I mean, I'll not get into depth of it. Maybe some of us here are also from the edtech domain, but we see many of these competitive exam selling companies going in that zone even today, because they're being driven by the force of the competition. The competition is making them do it because there's no other option. You have to move into sales. So they go to any student out there, even if the student is from a very poor family, they sell EMIs, they somehow sell a dream, because that's the only thing they can do. What if a company, and that's good, I mean, good to some extent, they are making their money, but are they building something which is sustainable? Probably not. This is an example. Because they simply crumbled. They had to get themselves acquired in at a distress level, because, and they were making good revenues, as I mentioned, because there was no purpose, because the team was not inspired enough to continue. So it was not the competition which let them fail. It was their failure to fight the competition which came out of their lack of inspiration, lack of purpose. So yeah, so this is my thought. Again, I might be, these are all different evaluations, right? So if you look at evaluations in different ways, you find different types of answers. So the point being, what we see in these three stories, each one of them come with a very interesting uh, output around their failures, which is around what we say: connect, develop, and inspire. Now, effectively, I'm talking about the core mantra that we'd always talk about as well. But effectively, you can see that the team, the founders, the entrepreneurs, and the new hires were not able to connect with each other, have candid communication with each other in the first case, and be able to come together to a vision alignment in a manner where each of them are working towards the same goal and understanding each other well enough. That's where they failed. The other company, the second one, they failed in not understanding what really the team that they have hired wants. So you expand, you get a super techie. This was an example of a teacher. You get a super techie. Now this techie wants to build a career in AI, and then you're making them do something else. Somehow somewhere that is also a problem. So focusing on the development of the employees within the organization, keeping in mind their growth, is also important. That's what the second one missed. And the third one very clearly missed recognizing people who have purpose, appreciating them, inspiring them, and creating a mindset where people are driven by some cause and not just by money, because it's not sustainable that way. So these are three outputs from my side. Now it's already 11:46. Would love to anyone, you can switch on your mic, share your story. Because the thought is this, either you can give a comment on what I have shared, or you can share your either success story, failure story, or maybe whatever challenge we are facing right now, anything, or maybe someone else's story. And I would love for the rest of the people also on this call to contribute to an answer, because I think that is one of the purposes why all of us are here. Most of us are entrepreneurs in our own right. So yeah, if anyone would like to share, it would be great. Yashashvi, can you Sumit, please.
Uh, Hi, Ashwin. It was a great learning we have been given. So thank you so much for all the inputs that you have given. I would like to say that we are a travel tech startup, one of the worst hit industries right now due to COVID, and trying to survive. So we are a bootstrap company right now. So I think you would have got this question a lot of times, but the challenge that we have currently is hiring people, wherein getting a really good talent uh, which has a very high pay scale versus hiring people who we can afford but trying to get them to do the work that we're trying to is in there. So anything that you could put a light on that, how do we approach this? Are we approaching it in the wrong way? Something on those lines, if you could just guide us.
Okay. Okay. No, interesting, Sumit. Yeah, that's a common problem, isn't it? Who do we hire? Uh, so now, in terms of funding, are you there, Sumit? Do you have the right funds to hire senior folks as well?
Now. So we are still bootstrapped. We have done our MPC. We had got traction, so we are on our way. So still the industry is struggling, so we are still
Yeah.
waiting for things to open up, and we are already doing our pitch decks and everything. So we will start approaching the investors very soon. So we are still bootstrapped.
So, again, the answer, of course, depends on a lot of evaluation on your side. But uh, one thing it is very important, at least like while choosing whoever you want to hire, one thing is important that now is the time when you are expanding, growing, even despite all the challenges that the market is facing. Uh, you need to, according to my, of course, understanding, uh, firstly, hire people who can not necessarily just carry your vision forward, but also get aligned with your vision. Now, what happens is that, if you keep on hiring people who you believe, okay, this is this is exactly what I want, and I want these many people to only follow what I'm saying, then growth gets, according to me, limited. So people who can come in and get aligned with your vision. So they can be people who can be senior folks also, but or also can be the other way around. With the people who want to work, who you would have to work with, uh, uh, and who would follow you. But it should not just be on the basis of who can follow exactly what I'm saying. It has to be, according to me, on the basis of people who come with their own vision, and some kind of alignment can be done with them. So I don't know. This is what I think is an ideal way to grow. And travel tech now, of course, Sumit, what is important now? This is my thought again. Might be limited. Uh, is that the market is very bad right now. Things are in a bad situation, bad stage, but it's about sustaining for some more time, because there has to be a time. So it's like a natural phenomena of trend. And as I mentioned, product market fit is not defined based on what the market is right now, but what the market will be in the near future. And somehow, somewhere, I'm sure, Sumit, you're also seeing this, that the business will bounce back in a way that has not been seen before. So, it's all about aligning those people right now who can see this possibility that if done in the right way, if it's like, and this entire industry has now been given a rehaul, everything, so all the big players are also on the same level as the small players now. And it's like a new race starting for all the players in this domain in a way. And that's a good thing. It's just that you need to prepare for the race a little bit more. And when the race will actually start, it will be a beautiful race to have. So if we can align with that thought process, be okay to live in that sustainable mode for the possibility of a much bigger future to come in. Then I think they are the right people, to work with. That's my thoughts on it.
Thank you so much, Ashwin.
Priyansh also wants to ask something. Priyansh, or share your thoughts.
Hi. Yeah, hi. It was a wonderful presentation. So I'm Dr. Priyansh Shah, and I'm the founder and president of a health social enterprise called the World Youth Heart Federation. So right now, all the team members that we have are working on voluntary basis, part-time. And we're still in an initial growth phase wherein we're not able to provide, we're not been providing salaries to everyone who's working, and it's just a voluntary thing. So here it is difficult to manage the team and the timings. So according to you, how do you think, so everyone who's joined is definitely very high on the inspire area and even self-development. But I'd say time commitment becomes a major issue sometimes, but we have the strength to tackle it. So how do you think we could manage it more effectively at this stage?
Oh, I understand that, Priyansh. Of course, I mean, you must be having a good team of volunteers, and it will not be practical to, of course, pay them salaries right now, considering the work that you are doing. And they are also motivated. That's why they are with you. But the word volunteer itself, the word itself, according to me, makes you look at any work that you are doing as as something that you are probably giving, okay, I am giving to the work somehow, somewhere. And the work is giving back to me does not really come across very strongly. So I don't know, maybe I'm sharing just some strategies, might be completely, I will of course need to know more. But one strategy in this case is, which I have applied in one of my other companies also very strongly, is firstly that, we try to cover something with the volunteers. It's like, even if it is like, let's say, paying 5,000 rupees per month, something that's an honorarium, we call it honorarium, for example, and you still do this something, so the association becomes a little bit more strong in that sense. But even more importantly, what is important is that firstly, of course, more than volunteer, they become part of the company in a way, or the team in a way. The naming, the way the convention itself changes, the designation changes. They can be honorary member of something, that because they're being paid honorarium, so that way they get more attached. And then every single work they do, because at the end of the day, of course, salary is a concern here. They have to get something solid out of it, and it's not really just about, okay, I am giving something and I'm not getting in return, and that something out of it is in form of course, they feeling the satisfaction of what they have achieved. And that is very important over here, that every single task, for example, any context, let's say someone writing a line of code for a product that can be used to fight COVID-19, someone writing that line of code should be made to understand basically that this line of code has led to these many lives being saved. We have done this. It gives people this, and it should be done in a very passionate, true manner, that okay, this is what you wrote, led to this kind of impact, and finally leading to this result happening. If one is able to see very clearly every single effort that they are doing, even if it will be for 30 minutes, resulting in something solid, everyone wants to see results, then somehow, somewhere, that result drives you to do a little bit more. So, of course, the ideal solution is to retain people by having them, meeting their needs, whatever they require. But this is one of the needs which can be met, which is their need to feel. So yeah, so this is my thought here.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so we are anyways at the end of our session right now. Prakash has asked, what are the key points to measure on the product marketability funding? Okay. So key points to measure on the product marketability and funding. So now product marketability, I mean, it's a function, of course, of the understanding the market. I mean, you cannot say anything more about that. It's you have to figure out what the market is. And okay, product. If the question is marketability, as in is the product marketable enough, then there has to be POCs. There has to be, of course, POC has to be very well designed, where POC is not happening just with one set of people, but with a large number of demographics spread across different, different categories. And then you see whether it is getting marketed or not. So these are various obvious ways of product marketability. In terms of funding, I always say, I mean, if the question is key points to measure how, if the company is ready for funding or what kind of funding, then I always say, of course, it's the business model one has to look at, it's the team one has to look at, it's the relationship between the team one has to look at. I always say this, as and you talk to any investor, any funder out there, they always put team, the way the teams engage within themselves, the relationship within the teams. These are things which come across very strongly. They actually measure it. And, they may not say it in the exact those terms, but, I talk to some of the top VCs as well. They actually measure it, how the team functions as a whole. And that measurement is used to decide whether funding is done or not. So yeah, so this is another, and of course, the business model, the scalability of the product, these are very obvious, purposes of funding. Yeah, so very briefly answered that. Is there a forum website to meet and network with other? Oh yeah. So there are lots of forums for for various entrepreneurs. One of my favorite forums, I mean, is Push Start. I like them a lot. It's called Push Start. It's by Neeraj Joshi. He was a junior from yeah. So I know him. So it's a good one. So there are many such startups. I'm not recommending them only, but there are multiple such forums. I like Push Start a lot for various purposes. And I think Yashashvi, you can connect with Alok and give further suggestions also. Yeah. And blockchain tech enabled, Alok, then, you should connect with me also. I do a lot of work on blockchain. So maybe we can connect. Rajiv asks, plastics. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is very specific, Rajiv. One has to look at, this is not something which I can, it's only 1 minute left. But yes, there's a lot of pressure on this industry today. It's all about changing. Plastics has been made to sound like it is, a villain, and which it is to a great extent. And now the idea is that something more can be done. So okay, yeah. So there has to be multiple ways. I think Kiran has said something: Flint group packaging and resin. So yeah, I mean that's the whole idea. Let people share their thoughts over here, Rajiv. I will not be able to, suggest anything at least off the head right now. And anyways, we have got 1 minute to go. Okay, thank you. But we can connect, Rajiv, anytime and see what else we can do together. Okay, great. Then thank you everyone. Very nice to have this conversation. I think we got some really good interactions also done. Yes, so Yashashvi can connect with everyone. Yashashvi, you can make sure. I believe you will have the email IDs of everyone. And let's connect. It's not just about GMI, Great Man Institute, or about what work I am doing. Let's connect in general. Work together towards utilizing the situation that we are in towards an opportunity, because we are on the verge of something very interesting going on with all the challenges that we are facing at this moment. Thank you everyone. Okay, bye. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.